So let's start off with the kitchen, as it's the biggest part of this room really. It's the biggest change in this room. So this is now an open plan living, kitchen, sitting room. It's not the biggest room in the world, but it's certainly big enough for a 1-bedroom flat, and it's well proportioned for a 400 plus square foot flat as well. The kitchen was from DIY Kitchens. The worktop was from Worktops Express. The appliances were from Appliances Direct, and they are all wired in and good to go. Obviously you need to take the hood cover off once we're finished. But I'm going to start by saying I'm disappointed in this kitchen, really not very happy with it. I've ordered a lot of kitchens from DIY Kitchens. I've sung their praises, apart from their terrible delivery. But this just wasn't very good. The quality of the doors isn't good. There's paint, they arrived with like paint on them, and they've arrived like dirty. And it's partly because it's a light cabinet, but it just isn't actually what you'd receive if you ordered from Howdens, for example, or Magnet. The finish would have been much better. So unfortunately, after God knows how many refurbs I've done with them, I'm starting to pull away and maybe part ways with them, because I'm really disappointed in a couple of kitchens we've received now. Not only that, but the builders, some of them love to fit them, some of them really hate them. So I want to keep my builders happy, and I want to have the product that I want at the end. But overall, there's a few things to talk about this kitchen, and that is that we've just tried to make the best use of space possible. In an ideal world, I wanted one line of units, but we couldn't fit everything in. So instead we went for an L shape. With going for an L shape and trying to cram so much in, we have put a sink under units like this, which you wouldn't normally do, or you'd normally have higher units and a bigger gap between the sink and that, but we just went for it. It was something they suggested so that we could get more in, and I think overall it does work okay. It's just not normally what you'd do. We've got a lot of obviously just standard cupboards, so we've got a drawer here, cupboards, under sink cupboards, and that's where all of the isolators are located for things like the hob and the oven, and the isolators are located under there as well for the hob, the oven, and the hood. Obviously, we've got our lovely sink, which is all plumbed in, and there is a washer dryer. Now, for anyone that's followed me for any length of time, you'll know that I do not normally put any white goods or appliances into a property, and that is because I like for people to have to move in, have to buy stuff for themselves, and it kind of means they stay here for longer. It also means potentially less maintenance for me in the future. If something breaks, it's their property, not something I've bought. But what I've noticed really, obviously with these smaller 1-bed flats, is that there isn't really anywhere for someone to dry their clothes, which then kind of encourages people to dry their clothes on a drying rack or a drying horse. And then you're more likely to get things like condensation, which then leads to mold, etc, etc. So by fitting them a washer dryer, I am hoping to encourage them to do the washing and the drying there, rather than drying their clothes in the flat. We'll see if that pays off or not. Anything else to note in this room? We've got a brand new radiator. There was a older, sort of thicker storage heater, so we're gonna have to make good of the areas around it. There's a hole here as well. There was a hole there. But that's all wired, ready to go. We just need to tidy up around it, which the decorator, aka my dad, is currently doing. But let's head on through to the other room. You can now see that the hallway's been painted. These are the brand new walls, and you've got all the arcs and the skirts that have been going on as well. And in here, just really everything's been done. It's just a brand new room. So plastering all the way round. New radiator in the corner here underneath this, very similar to in the sitting room. Brand new window as well, as that needed replacing. But overall, this is going to be a really good sized bedroom. So I'm very pleased with the outcome of this conversion from a kitchen to a bedroom, obviously, and I think it's a really good result. They're the main changes. I want to talk to you now about the problems that we've been looking to try and solve on this flat. So one of the problems you'll remember me talking about was the leak in the bathroom, which was above what is currently there, which is actually stain block. Now the leak we found was coming obviously from the neighbour above, and after some backwards and forwards, as I previously mentioned. We have now agreed that it is coming from his flat, of course. And given that he is a plumber, he was able to take the boxing in off from around his toilet, and he found, actually, this is pretty gross, that it was the soil pipe from the back of his toilet that was dripping and leaking and was slowly making its way down here. So I'm glad I didn't, touch the ceiling too much when figuring out, where the leak's coming from. But fortunately he fixed it, and very quickly we've noticed that it's dried up, and that was the problem, which is really, really positive news. So as I said, my dad is doing the decorating on this flat, and he's put stain block on it, and then obviously we'll get a couple of layers of paint on it. That's one problem. Problem number two is the fact that we've got this lovely bath, which is dated, and if I was, as I previously mentioned, if I was selling this, I would have replaced it. But as it's a rental, this will be absolutely fine. The other problem is the fact that we don't have any shower. In an ideal world, we'd have a shower up here, so then the person can take a shower. However, if I was to just basically put a shower fitting up here, the water pressure from the water tank isn't good enough. So that simply is a no-go. We have gone with the electric shower, which I didn't think we were going to do. I thought we were going to do the pump. The plumber came around, said it's not really a possibility. Said the other alternative is replacing the tank. Didn't really want to do that one, as that one sounded expensive, or it was expensive. So we are putting an electric shower on here. Obviously, the concern was that that was going to disrupt the tiling. We're going to have to take the tiling off to wire and plumb it in. But we think we can kind of retrofit one on top. And that is by taking this coving off. The electrician's going to run the wire down along there and down. And then we're going to run the pipework up from the corner, along the top, and then down. And we've managed to find, I don't know how many of these are around in the plumbing space, but I certainly made sure to find an electric shower which had 8 different entry points for water and electrics. Now that might be a common thing, but I certainly had to look around to find one that had it listed as one of the features. So this means that we can feed the water in and the electricity in from the top, and that goes really well with obviously running everything along the top of the bathroom. So hopefully problem solved. And that's one of those things I don't think is a necessity, as in I think someone probably would have rented here without it. But I do think it adds to the desirability. If someone walks into this flat and they like the kitchen, they like the living room, they like the bedroom, and then they go, I can't shower in the morning before work, I have to take a bath every day. I do think that's a bit of a drawback. So I think it'll be worth fitting it in the long run. Price of doing so is coming in at around £500 to £600 when you factor in the cost of the electric shower, which is about 180, the cost of the electrician, which is just over 200, and then the rest is my joiner's going to actually do a lot of the pipe work because he's quite handy, let's put it that way.